So you want a motorcycle? That's why we're all here, right? After years of watching the best videos on YouTube, you've deciphered the memes and battled with spec sheet warriors. Now you're ready for your personality to evolve from Charmander all the way to Charizard and commit to that badass biker lifestyle. But how do you know that you are ready? There are a few measures every future motorcyclist should take before you bite off more than you can chew and end up in all sorts of trouble. Do you have enough cash on hand for a bike and all the necessary gear, or will you have to take a personal loan from the wise guys down by the docks with a 30% VIG? Do you have liability insurance in case you ride your Ninja 400 right into the front of a Chuck E. Cheese, completely ruining your 10-year high school reunion? There are a bunch of different factors you may not have yet considered, so let's take a minute to determine how you know you'll be ready for a motorcycle. But before we get started, click that notification bell so you see our new videos and don't get lost in your feed amongst all the Minecraft and mukbang videos. First, let me shout out the sponsor of today's video. It's our awesome community over at Yaminoop.co. We have one of the best communities for all kinds of motorcyclists over on our Discord server. You'll find the Ask Yam channel where members can ask me for advice on motorcycle purchases, gear recommendations, or riding tips. Plus, you get access to the YamCam live streams and have the opportunity to contribute questions or take part in the contest of the YamCast. We have a ton of fun over there, and it's a great opportunity to get a jump start on your motorcycle knowledge and culture if you're a new rider. Memberships are as low as $5 a month. Not only do you get access to our Discord, but you also be entered to win our giveaway motorcycles. Head over to Yaminoop.co and see what it's all about. All right, so you're thinking about getting a motorcycle. One of the first things you're going to want to do is understand your motivation. Why do you want a motorcycle in the first place, and what do you want your motorcycling experience to look like? You got to put that bike on your dream board, charge your crystals in the full moon, and manifest it, baby. Coming to these conclusions early can help determine a plan to get you on two wheels and how to make it happen in the most direct and easiest way possible. Do you want to ride a sport bike because you've been a longtime MotoGP fan, or do you want to ride a Harley because you're from a rural town in the Midwest and that's just what everyone does? Or are you a gearhead that loves all things fast and shiny and a motorcycle is just the next step in that journey? If you figure out why it is you want to get on a motorcycle, you will have a better understanding of how you want to go about it and where to look for useful information. If you want to ride a sport bike, your coworker who rides a Harley probably isn't going to know whether you should get an R3 or a Ninja 400. It is important to know why it is you want a motorcycle and what you have to accomplish in order to achieve it. Oh, and if you want a motorcycle because you're convinced girls will think it's cool, they won't. Sorry, that's been long debunked. One of the things you need to consider right off the bat is the financial cost of motorcycling. You know those little green pieces of cotton that govern every decision we make on a daily basis? Well, you're gonna need to get that in to get motorcycling too. How much money you'll need is dependent on what you want your experience to look like. Do you want to bop over to the dealership and get a freshie off the showroom floor? Okay, then you'll need the MSRP plus a cushion to account for the inflated dealer prices, then extra for tax and licensing fees. So you're saying looking at a $6,000 beginner bike, you can expect to pay at least $7,000 out the door. If you're financing your bike, you have to consider that you'll be paying the APR over the time too. Buying a bike from a dealership is probably the easiest way to get a motorcycle, but it definitely won't be the cheapest. Another option is to buy your first motorcycle secondhand. There are always plenty of small displacement starter bikes for sale as riders sell their beginner motorcycles to make room in their stable for Turbo Hayabusa, although they should have probably just started on that. So it shouldn't be too hard to find a good used beginner bike for a decent price in most places. It probably won't be a good deal, quote unquote, considering just how crazy the prices are on motorcycles right now, but it still will be cheaper than a dealership. Just make sure to do your due diligence and look out for red flags when buying a used bike. We've done videos on that in the past. If you want to go back and take a crash course on buying a used motorcycle, we got you covered. Okay, so you know you're going to need money for your bike, whether that be paying cash outright or financing a portion of it. Then you're going to need money for insurance. If you're buying a cheaper used bike for just a couple $1,000, you can probably get away with modest coverage, whereas if you're buying a newer, more expensive motorcycle, you're going to want to have full coverage. You can get a quote online to determine your exact cost of the insurance policy on your specific bike. After you've got an idea of what it's going to cost you to buy a bike to get proper insurance, you'll still need money for riding gear. A helmet, jacket, gloves, and boots are the most basic things you'll want to get started before riding. A full set of beginner gear will likely cost around $500, but hey, it is cheaper than a skin graft. One more note about insurance is if you are financing your motorcycle, you'll typically be required by your lender to carry full coverage insurance on that ride too, so be sure you can account for that. Alright, now that you've got your finances in line and determined that you're able to dedicate a certain amount of money into your new hobby, another thing to consider is your mechanical knowledge. Being mechanically inclined is going to make your entry into motorcycles quite a bit easier for a few reasons. Right off the bat, it will make it easier to learn how to ride a motorcycle. Motorcycles, like cars with manual transmissions, require the operator to be more in tune with the machine, understanding the power band, when to shift, when to engine brake, so on and so forth. If you're considering riding a motorcycle, it is going to work in your favor to have a good mechanical understanding. The people who usually have the hardest time in the MSF course are the ones who don't really have an understanding of how a manual transmission works, how an engine works, or how throttle input directly relates to the behavior of the machine. The MSF will teach you how to do U-turns in a box, but they won't be able to give you an in-depth insight into the mechanics of motorcycle operation in relation to rider input. I mean, you'll be riding a Rebel 250, throttle control is kind of irrelevant at that point, plus having more motorcycle mechanical knowledge will be useful in determining which style of bike you want to ride eventually. Will you want a thumpy single cylinder, a high revving inline 4, or a torque forward twin? The mechanics of a motorcycle directly correspond to the rider experience. Lastly, knowing how to do your own repairs or maintenance will be crucial in your experience. It's not that every rider needs to know how to rebuild their engines, but most motorcyclists I know change their own oil and do basic bolt-on modifications themselves. Except for the ones that ride Ducatis. If anything breaks or needs replacing, being able to fix it yourself will be rewarding while also saving you a lot of dough. The next thing you have to consider, and this might be the most important one on today's video, and I hope you made it to this and you really want to pay attention to this one, you got to take a good long look in the mirror and ask, am I really ready for this? For folks in your mid to late 20s, you're probably fine. If you're old enough to already have your spirit broken by the cold hard facts of reality and capitalism, you're probably mature enough to handle a motorcycle. You should be able to understand the accountability and consequences. I'm mostly talking to the younger people watching this video, the 18 to 23 demographic, give or take. Before you drop all of your lawn mowing money on a Gixxer Thou and slap it on your parents' insurance policy, think about what it would look like if you didn't have the financial support of your family. If you had to have your own out-of-pocket health insurance, or if you didn't have their nice garage in the suburbs to store your bike in. Take a serious minute to think, do my actions have a clear and direct impact on my well-being, or is there a financial fairy godmother that will save me when I inevitably mess up because I've never had consequences before? If you answer the latter, you're probably not ready for a motorcycle. If you don't have a healthy sense of fear and a respect for the machine, you are not ready either. A motorcycle is serious business, and you can hurt yourself or hurt others around you and create some serious financial troubles. So make sure you have a strong understanding of those risks before you make the jump. All right, sorry for the tangent there. Just want to make sure all the young people watching know motorcycling isn't all about turbo boosas and dank nooners. I mean, that is a big part of motorcycling, but you know what I mean. Another important part of becoming a motorcyclist is having an experienced friend or mentor that can help you out. An experienced cohort can really make your first foray into motorcycling a lot easier than going about it on your own. While sure, there is plenty of good information on the internet from reputable motorcycle YouTube channels or publications, there's also a lot of bad information from dum-dum squids or cruiser boomers that want you to start on a liter bike or a Kawasaki Vulcan. Both are bad. I've heard of crazy stories of people going on Facebook groups and everybody convincing them to go get a 1000 as their first motorcycle. You shouldn't get a 1000 as your first motorcycle, guys. Use your noggin. That's why it's important to have an experienced buddy in real life to keep you on track. They can help you in the motorcycle buying process, especially if you find a good deal on a bike before actually having your endorsement. They'll be able to tag along and ride it home for you if you don't have a truck or a trailer. Plus, they'll be able to actually test ride the bike for you and help you negotiate. Once you get your endorsement, it will be good to have an experienced friend to ride with that has a vested interest in you actually getting good at motorcycling, instead of riding with the local squids that call you a narc for not keeping up with the group when they're going triple digits in the city. Once you've got all your finances squared away and you've got a bike picked out with the help of a friend or your favorite YouTube personality, you should be able to get your endorsement so you can legally ride the damn thing. This is the easiest way to go about this is by taking the Motorcycle Safety Foundation course. This can actually be the first thing you do, but it is too obvious to be at the top of the list. It is worth taking the course if you've ever had the fleeting idea of riding a motorcycle. It only costs about $100 in a weekend of your time. They'll teach you a bunch of boring stuff like how to start your bike, do your T-clocks, and wearing the proper gear. And then you'll do some slightly less boring stuff on the riding course like waddling around and doing U-turns. While it can be a little exhaustive, it will teach you some very basic fundamentals and grant you the privilege to ride your motorcycle and continue learning on your own. The MSF is honestly super easy if you're able to follow instructions and be receptive to the critiques of your instructors as well. But be aware, it is not the be-all, end-all of motorcycle education. You're going to have to learn a whole lot more after you leave. And the last thing you have to do is just commit to the lifestyle. You have to recognize that motorcycling is a skill and will take a long time to master, and you should join the journey of lifelong crafting. And the last thing you have to do is just commit to the lifestyle. You have to recognize that motorcycling is a skill, it will take a long time to master, and you should treat it like a lifelong craft. You'll need to acknowledge your shortcomings, analyze your mistakes, and make use of the resources available to you. Whether that is a continued education course, a more advanced rider course, or heading the advice of an older rider in your friend group, if you're able to recognize the responsibility that comes with motorcycling, have the cash to make it happen, and have the patience to learn and go about it reasonably, I think you're ready for a motorcycle and all the fun that comes with it. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something, and maybe this is the video you needed to realize you've been ready all along and push you right over the edge. Get that Turbo Busa, baby. Fact: we are born with only two natural fears, the fear of falling and the fear of loud sounds. All other fears and phobias are learned or acquired later in life. Well, look at you. You've made it to the end of another Yaminoop video. You should consider yourself pretty lucky because I have curated this one right over here for you to continue watching. It's probably just as good as the one you just saw. Unless you hated the one you just saw. I don't know, maybe leave me a comment down below about how much you hated it as well too. Or just keep watching this one. Make sure you keep watching Yaminoop. Don't forget to keep watching Yaminoop. That's the most important thing. Keep watching Yaminoop.